New reaction today from the Trump administration over Moody's credit agency decision to downgrade the U.S. credit rating. So here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just a short time ago on NBC's Meet the Press.
First of all, I think that Moody's is a lagging indicator. We didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years. We inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, the highest when we weren't in a recession, not in a war, and we are determined to bring the spending down and grow the economy.
Joining me now is Bloomberg Opinion Senior Executive Editor and MSNBC political analyst, our friend Tim O'Brien. Tim, welcome. So Moody's is the last of the three main credit agencies to downgrade the U.S. credit rating, and it's pointing to decades of Washington's failure to address the country's financial challenges, and that includes lowering the national debt and underfunding programs like Social Security and Medicare. As to why it made the decision now, Moody's specifically referred to the trillions in tax cuts Republicans are seeking in President Trump's big, beautiful spending package. How will that downgrade affect our economy?
Well, it'll make it more expensive, Alex, for the federal government to finance its own debt. It's the same if a household was living on credit cards and the interest rate went up on a credit card, your monthly bills would become more expensive and you'd spend more of your income as a homeowner on just paying off your credit card debt each month. It's the same principle as work with the federal government. It funds all sorts of public projects by issuing debt. And when the interest rate goes up on the debt, more of taxpayer dollars has to go to servicing the debt than spending the money on the services themselves. It's now one of the biggest categories of public spending in the United States, just servicing the federal debt, alongside Social Security, defense spending, Medicaid, Medicare. Debt financing is a huge category of how tax dollars are being spent. Now, Scott Bessent just did a little artful dodging there when he said that this mountain of debt was left by Biden. Certainly COVID spending in the Biden administration and then public infrastructure spending in the Biden administration added to the national debt. But that was preceded by mountains of debt that were also added to the federal deficit by the Trump administration preceding Biden. Both of them added trillions of dollars to the federal debt. It's now around $36 trillion. Wow. The deficit last year was about $1.8 trillion. And there's a budget bill being negotiated right now. And the tax cuts envisioned in that budget bill, along with various spending shenanigans, is going to probably add another $4 to $5 trillion to the deficit. And they're simply misleading viewers about the nature of this problem.
I'm going to get to that, Bill, in a second. Let me just say you've perfectly crystallized what the problem is with the credit downgrade. When you say it is like living on a credit card and the interest goes up and you have to pay more to pay it off.
Right.
Everyone can understand that. Let's get to what happened Friday relative to that bill. The hardliners, they blocked the mega bill from advancing for not cutting enough spending and the concerns about what you referenced, the trillions that it adds to the national debt. Can the rating downgrade play into negotiations on the bill, Tim? Will Trump have to get involved beyond just posting on Truth Social? Do you expect to see a bunch of Republican lawmakers, make their way to the White House for meetings with the president?
I think they can, but what this has revealed is it's probably going to be impossible for Republicans to get a bill through without collaborating with Democrats. And that has been true for quite some time. And Mike Johnson has proven that he is not very effective at reaching out across the aisle to cut a deal, to get a bill across that makes fiscal sense. Trump can get involved, but Trump has very little sway with Democrats. And he could tell hardliners in the GOP, the MAGA wing of the GOP, to back down, but it's not clear that people like Chip Roy, for example, are going to listen to Donald Trump.
Let me get to what the White House is claiming, which is that Donald Trump secured more than $2 trillion in investments, this during his 4-day Middle East trip. But the Washington Post reports, Tim, that many of these deals were actually made before Trump took office. And the sum of these investments is less than half of White House claims. What is your understanding of what the president actually accomplished on his tour?
Well, it's always hard now, Alex, with this president because Donald Trump's own personal investments and his private companies' personal investments are tied into the very countries he's visiting. In recent weeks, he's cut new deals in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Dubai. And those happen to be the three countries that he visited on this trip. So it's hard to, one, simply ascertain whether or not he's choosing to visit these countries to line his own wallet or to serve the public interest in the United States. Also, his administration has made an art out of claiming large numbers around savings that they've procured in the U.S.'s own public spending or deals they've secured from outside the country for investments in the U.S. They've constantly inflated or misrepresented those numbers. So I think anytime they make a claim now about an investment in the United States, it has to be taken with a grain of salt. And then we don't really know what Trump's motivation is in any of this because of all of his personal financial conflicts that are at work.
Let me quickly just get into the nuts and bolts of that, because Trump's sons, Don Jr. and Eric, they are pursuing billions in the family business ventures in the region. To your point, a luxury hotel in Dubai, residential tower in Jeddah, new golf course and villa complex in Qatar. The White House says there are no ethics issues because Trump's sons run the business. But what do you make of these investments happening while Trump is president and visiting as the head of state? And will Donald Trump, at some point, profit from these ventures?
Well, of course he's going to profit from it, and that's why his sons are acting as his proxy in these deals. They have said on some of the deals that the states that Trump is doing diplomatic work in aren't involved in the business deals. That is not true. They're involved through sovereign wealth funds or state-controlled real estate firms. The founding fathers would be spinning in their graves because the Constitution never envisioned people with this kind of wealth or business interests securing the presidency. In the 20th century, presidents and the federal government tried to make up for that problem by presidents voluntarily setting up blind trusts and having others manage their wealth or business interests. Trump has chosen to do neither of those things. So there's no guardrails here, Alex.
Okay. Tim O'Brien, there'll be a lot to talk about together in the future. Thank you for joining us this Sunday.